Imagine completing a month's worth of work before dinner. Sounds ridiculous, right? Well, the science shows there's an unconventional but proven way to actually do this, and it's the ultimate hack for peak performance and work-life balance, and it will permanently redefine what productivity actually means to you. Now, I'm Rian, Doris, co-founder and CEO of the Flow Research Collective. We've used neuroscience-based principles to train everyone from Audi, Accenture, to the US Air Force to access states of flow at will. It turns out there's a neuroscience-based protocol to compress 30 days of output into 11 hours. I'm going to break that down for you in a moment. This is a protocol you can run to take yourself to an intentionally unsustainable extreme, with the benefit of knowing that it's temporary and that it's time-bound, so that you can produce an extreme result, a month's worth of work, progress, achievement in a single day. It's an Olympian-level feat, challenging to pull off, but doable. And it's called the 1 month day. I'll never forget my first 1 month day. I was temporarily living in New York, working on my master's in applied neuroscience. I did everything I'm about to break down in this video. I managed to write half of the thesis in one day, proofread it, convert it into the necessary academic format, and submit the thing. And I left the library high as a kite, finished at 11:30 p.m. on a Friday, and couldn't believe I had done it all and was able to take the whole weekend off. It was a heavenly feeling. Ever since, the 1 month day has been an indispensable part of my peak performance toolkit. But before I break down how to execute the 1 month day, how is it possible to accomplish a month's worth of work in a single day? Well, let's run the math. Research suggests that the average knowledge worker does real work for only 2.3 hours per day, or about 46 hours per month. In contrast, research done by McKinsey has shown that executives can increase their productivity by up to 500% when in a flow state at work. Psychologist Mihaly Csikszentmihalyi describes flow as a state in which people are so involved in an activity that nothing external seems to matter. A characteristic of the flow state is a potent mix of brain chemicals, dopamine, norepinephrine, endorphins, anandamide, and serotonin that directly enhance our performance. And this neurochemical change is highlighted in research conducted by Arne Dietrich of the American University of Beirut. Dopamine and norepinephrine sharpen focus and boost pattern recognition and motivation. Endorphins and anandamide increase endurance and enhance creative thinking. And serotonin elevates our mood and helps us stick with challenging tasks. Now, considering these neurological shifts, it's easy to see how a 500% productivity boost is possible. But this 500% figure, though astounding, is actually kind of conservative, believe it or not. We've seen elite performers match a full-time day in just 60 to 90 minutes of dedicated time spent on the right work in a flow state. And when you do the flow state stacking we're about to cover, 500% productivity boosts start to sound inevitable. Still, for our 1 month day calculation, let's be conservative and assume a 400%, a 4x increase in productivity. At 4 times productivity, for 11 hours, you can achieve the equivalent of 44 hours of average work output in that single day. Now, to show you that a 1 month day is possible, let's walk through exactly how to pull it off. In order to make the 1 month day a reality, it requires maximizing the 4 pillars of flow. First, you have to remove all the flow blockers, things that make flow impossible. Then, you have to increase your flow proneness, that is your tendency and likelihood of accessing flow at any given moment. Third, you make expert use of flow triggers all throughout the day. These are the preconditions that pop you into a flow state. And finally, you enter and exit the flow cycle multiple times in the day to ensure your brain can sustain the neurochemistry of flow for the entire day. Now, don't worry, we're going to cover these along the way as we break down how to set up, schedule, and run the 1 month day. And that brings us to step 1, which is isolate the target. The first part of the 1 month day happens before the day even begins. You want to take a moment to consider everything that's on your plate. Consider your current goals and your current plan for the next 30 days or so. If you could snap your fingers and have something be completed in a day that would normally take you about a month, what would that piece of work be? When I was studying neuroscience at King's College in London, I knew exactly what I wished I could wave a magic wand and finish. It was my master's in neuroscience thesis. Now, as an example, you may want to rebuild a complex system in your business, or complete several chapters for a book that you're working on, or develop an entirely new skill. After all, flow increases learning rates by up to 490%. You'd be shocked by how much mastery you can attain with 11 hours spent in flow, focusing on acquiring skill or knowledge on any given subject. But whatever it is, bring something to mind to accomplish during your 1 month day. Okay, now that you've got that thing in mind, we need to convert that outcome into what's called a clear goal. In Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's research on flow state, Csikszentmihalyi identified several preconditions that cause flow to emerge. And again, these are called flow triggers. But there's one precondition for flow that isn't just a trigger, it's a prerequisite. Without this, there's no flow. And that trigger is called clear goals. A clear goal is an action to take, a target for your attention on the task level that will lead to the ultimate outcome. Clear goals aren't about the finish line, they're about the next step. Selling 1 million books is the dream, writing 500 words is today's clear goal. Now, clear goals decrease cognitive load, the number of items held in working memory, so your brain isn't bogged down deciding what to do next. This leaves more mental resources for actually doing the work. And neurologically, when a clear goal is set, the prefrontal cortex filters out irrelevant information, allowing for deeper immersion in the task. Then, as clear goals are hit, dopamine floods your system. This reward chemical makes the work feel good and keeps you motivated, sustaining your attention. In order to pull off the 1 month day, you need to have your clear goals decided upon before the day even begins. If you're not sure what to focus on, ask, number 1, what action, if completed, would progress my primary professional pursuit the most? Or what task will allow me to do more with less or reduce future demands on my time, energy, and attention? That may be the target for your 1 month day. Remember, the brain craves clear goals. Clear goals filter the noise and free you to focus. Now that you've isolated the target for your attention, that brings us to the second step for making the 1 month day work, which is to clear the load. In order to pull off the 1 month day, your flow proneness has to be high. Flow proneness refers to your inherent tendency or likelihood to experience flow frequently and easily. Rather than leave this up to chance, we can intentionally clear everything that suppresses flow proneness in advance. The first is to clear your allostatic load. For the 1 month day, your body and brain must be fully recovered. Flow requires neurochemicals that are expensive for the brain to produce. It's not possible to sustain the state for long without proper recovery. The way to recover is to clear your allostatic load, which is a fancy way of referring to the physical wear and tear that your body and brain accumulates throughout your day-to-day. To clear your allostatic load, use active recovery protocols. Active recovery is different to passive recovery. Active recovery involves engaging actively in an activity that accelerates the recovery process, activates the parasympathetic nervous system, and down-regulates your sympathetic nervous system. Things like nature immersion, cold plunges, sauna, and massage. And of course, get 7 to 9 hours of sleep. The key to getting successful sleep is to go to bed deaf, blind, cold, and hungry. That's how we like to put it. Deaf means blocking out all sound and using some kind of earbuds. Blind is easiest done by using an eye shade. Cold means having the temperature cold, and hungry means not eating at least 3 hours before bed. And you can track how low your allostatic load is and how high your recovery is before your 1 month day by looking at your heart rate variability, your HRV, which is a key indicator of fitness, stress, and readiness for peak performance. You want to aim to get your HRV at or above your usual average 30-day range to heighten your flow proneness and be fit for the 1 month day. And if there are any acute stressors in your life, save the 1 month day for another day. You don't want to be doing a 1 month day on the brink of getting sick or after having had a week of terrible sleep or being plagued with jet lag. Now, the second piece is to clear your cognitive load after you've cleared your allostatic load. Cognitive load refers to the number of items you're carrying in working memory. Research has shown that flow triggers work by decreasing cognitive load. Start with erasing all possible decisions from the day. Don't wake up wondering where you're going to work, what you'll wear, or what you'll eat. Prep your clothes, commute, and food the night before. Save all decision-making for your time spent in flow on the work rather than on the minutiae within the day required to get to doing the work. Treat this process as if you're preparing for a 3 a.m. flight where every detail is planned out the night before. Your bags are packed, you're checked in for the flight, your boarding pass and passport already in your pocket, and you have a ride to get to the airport. That's the level of preparation needed to truly pull off a 1 month day. The next step for clearing cognitive load is to wrap up all loose ends. Go through all your texts, respond to everything as needed, ping whoever you need to ping, and wrap up any final dangling tasks. The rule here is 0 open loops are allowed for the 1 month day. The final step for clearing your cognitive load is to set your workspace up to be a flow dojo. A chaotic physical environment mirrors mental chaos. So organize your workspace as carefully as you would arrange the tree lights, stockings, and gifts for the kids on Christmas morning. For example, instead of having to pull out your laptop, untangle a cable, and search for an outlet, set your office up the day or night before so you can press a key and boom, start working immediately. Now onto the final kind of load we want to clear to nail our 1 month day. We want to clear our life maintenance load. Life maintenance load is all the necessary but non-work tasks that keep your personal world running. Think cooking, cleaning, errands. It's the plate spinning that prevents a breakdown but doesn't actually propel you forward. For the 1 month day, you must bring your life maintenance load as low as possible or find a way to safely pause it for a full day. I handle this by prepping a week's worth of meals, outsourcing laundry whenever possible, and knocking out all minor errands the week before the 1 month day. I also make sure my primary relationships are in a good place and give friends, family, and work colleagues a heads up that I'll be completely offline for those 24 hours. So now you've cleared the load. To boost your flow proneness, it's time to guard yourself against everything that will threaten your ability to hit the target that we've already set during your 1 month day. And that brings us to number 3, which is to build an impenetrable flow fortress within which you're going to carry out your 1 month day. Now, tell me if you can relate to this. I'm deep in a crucial task. The momentum is building. I'm on a roll. Then my phone pings. It's just a glance, I think, but that glance spirals into seconds, minutes, then hours. This is distraction at work, and it's the most immediate flow blocker. Before you kick off the 1 month day, you must make distractions an impossibility. This means first, free yourself from the phone. If working at an office, keep your phone at home, leave it there. If working at home, turn it off and store it in the back shed. Lock it up or give it to your spouse, whatever you gotta do. The rule here is simple. It's out of reach and hard to even access. Keeping your phone in the room, even if it's off, is like keeping your car door open all night. You'll drain the battery of your brain. Your brain has to work hard to ignore the phone's constant promise of effortless reward, of easy dopamine. My flow fortress is here in LA in a garage, and what I like to do is turn off the phone and put it in my bedroom, which is on the floor above, out of sight, out of mind. The next thing we want to do is to go dark. No emails, texts, calls, or instant messaging. All notifications turned off. And we want to inform people beforehand that we're not going to be available for the entire day. Everyone needs to know you'll be unreachable. And you need the peace of mind that you won't be interrupted and that all the loops have been closed so that people aren't going to be wondering why you're unreachable. They know where to find you in an emergency. And then you want to block everything on your computer except what you're working on. Use tools like self-control or freedom to make accessing specific sources of distraction nearly impossible. And of course, you want to set up a disruption-free environment. Research by Gloria Mark highlights the hidden cost of disrupted work. Even a small task switch increases stress, drains cognitive resources, and extends the time it takes to finish a task. Even after the disruption ends, your brain needs a significant chunk of time, about 21 minutes, to regain concentration. This is why trying to do a 1 month day in an office with the disruptions of swarming colleagues or at home with kids running around will not work, not even close. If needed, check into a hotel or co-working space for the day. There's even famous stories of people booking 15+ hour-long flights and doing their 1 month day to protect themselves from interruption. You'll love having this kind of impenetrable attention, and you'll notice how deep the flow state that you end up immersing in will become. The last step in building a flow fortress is to make self-distraction impossible. During the 1 month day, you can count on this happening. You're deep in the flow, words flying, code compiling, creativity crackling, and then bam! An idea unrelated to your task pops in. An errand you forgot to run intrudes with urgency, or you think of something you need to tell a colleague. Well, if you give in to these distracting thoughts, your focus will fracture like a dropped mirror, shattering slowly into multiple pieces. These sorts of thoughts are particularly likely to drop into your head when you're offline. That's because it's easy to get worried about not checking in. The way to deal with this impulse to self-distract is to take a note, take a breath, and then take a quick walk. That is, keep a notepad with you during your 1 month day, specifically dedicated to externalizing the thoughts that will pop up. So rather than acting on those thoughts, you jot them down. You get it out of your head to lower cognitive load, and then you get back into flow. With all distractions and disruptions guarded against, it's time to dive into the 1 month day itself. When you run the 1 month day, you are flow stacking, and specifically, you are stacking flow blocks together. Now, flow block is a discrete chunk of time, usually 1 to 2 hours, in which you allocate all of your attention to the task at hand, such that you tap into flow and milk that flow state for all that it is worth. Here's how you can dive into your first flow block when your brain is the most primed for flow. That brings us to the fourth step to run a 1 month day, which is wake up and flow. My partner, Stephen Kotler, has written over a dozen best-selling books. He wrote all of them by waking up at 3 a.m., which he's done for nearly 30 years now, and then dropping straight into flow. So to kick off the 1 month day, instead of an elaborate routine, wake up and dive into your highest priority task. Not in an hour, within 90 seconds of opening your eyes. Why? Well, because alpha and theta, the neuroelectrical signature of flow, are not far from theta or delta, which are the brain waves active in sleep. The struggle phase of flow is the movement from beta to the borderline between alpha and theta. This is a way to shortcut it. Even if you're half asleep and groggy, drop right into your most important task. Within 15 minutes, you'll wake up in a flow state while working. This dream to waking state is when your flow proneness is naturally at its peak. It might be a struggle at first, stage 1 of the flow cycle being the struggle phase, but once you get through the initial rough patch, you release into a flow state more quickly than fully waking up doing some elaborate morning routine. And this brings us to the next critical step to increasing your flow proneness. Treat each flow block as an event. The average knowledge worker's day is a blur. It's endless emails, scattered projects, and the nagging feeling of never truly being finished. Work bleeds into life and back again. The result, a never-ending state of almost done. This starkly contrasts the event-based work required for the 1 month day. Event-based work lets you give your all to flow blocks, then truly unplug during breaks. To maximize the flow you get during the 1 month day, the key is to approach each flow block as if you're a soldier about to enter the battlefield. Picture the tense, focused calm that envelops a soldier in the moments before action. You're on the front line, poised and ready, your senses heightened, awaiting the signal to advance. With a deep, steadying breath, you prepare mentally and physically, then the command is given, and you surge forward into the fray, every move calculated, every action purposeful, honing in on the target. Or imagine yourself as an Olympian. You've trained your whole life for this one shot at a gold medal. Once you dive in, you're all in. When you treat each flow block as an event in this way, you evoke resources within you that are otherwise inaccessible. Physiologically, adrenaline surges, heightening alertness. The heart rate accelerates, pumping oxygen-rich blood to your muscles, your body, your brain. And psychologically, memory circuits in the hippocampus, providing a mental blueprint for the actions that you're taking. Before any flow block that I do, I always say to a friend or a colleague if they're there, all right, I'm going under, as I put my headphones on and start that flow block. A flow block should have some sort of trigger, sipping a coffee, closing a door, putting on those headphones, pull the trigger and drop into the slipstream of flow. To help ensure you treat each flow block as an event, we can enhance the stakes and specialness of the 1 month day. And that brings us to step 6, which is to cement the commitment. During the 1 month day, as you move through one flow block after another, entering and exiting the flow cycle, it's key to not let yourself get derailed during any of your quick breaks. For me, the biggest saboteur of the 1 month day is when I let its specialness erode. For example, checking my WhatsApp just for a minute in the morning, getting one quick call in because it's really important and I felt I couldn't delay it. I've learned that the 1 month day needs to be completely categorically distinct from every other day in your life. You want to think of it like a cherished holiday tradition. You faithfully observe all the rituals that make it special. You need the 1 month day to be sacrosanct, too important, valuable, or special to be interfered with, or it will erode into normalcy and the composure will fall apart. So to make the 1 month day sacrosanct, we can leverage a powerful external flow trigger and use our cognitive biases to work for us instead of against us. First, we can embed the external flow trigger of high consequences. As action sports athletes can attest, a high consequence environment demands that we summon a higher degree of skill and focus than what is typically required. In the brain, the higher consequence flow trigger activates the amygdala, which processes emotions like fear and anxiety. It signals to the rest of the brain